Hungerford. She is from my high school. We knew each other back then. She's doing some really cool stuff with nutrition and dietitian stuff coming up. Got to play basketball at the collegiate level. She'll get to share some of her experiences with that and what she's going on to now, coming up with some new programs here. So Kyra, if you want to give just a little bit of a background, what you're currently doing, what your status is here, and share with the class a little bit about what you're going to be talking about to us today.
Yeah, definitely. So I just graduated yesterday, actually, which is very exciting. Right now, I'm finishing up some extra classes in order to apply to a master's program in dietetics. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now in between. But a lot of the stuff we'll probably be talking to you about today has a lot to do with like body image, mental health, and nutrition, because that's like something I'm very passionate about, all three of those. And I believe that mental health and physical health are so important all together.
Yeah, and I think it comes at a perfect time when we're talking about this stuff. We talk about the body positivity and the positive, negative body image and stuff, and what we can do to help with that. So Kyra is going to be an awesome resource for us there to really dive into some of that stuff today, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say about it. She's got some really cool stuff there. So awesome. Thank you, Kyra. Keith, if you want to say hi to everybody here so you'll pop up on the screen. Keith is an athlete, student athlete, working on some really cool stuff. We've had some awesome conversations about the same stuff with the mental health side of things and what he wants to do with that. He's got some really cool stuff coming up with some camps and different things. So Keith, you want to talk a little bit about your unique situation right now, kind of in limbo, where you're going to be living, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to make it to, and how you got here today.
Yeah, hey y'all. I'm Keith. I lived in North Carolina and then moved to Iowa to go to the University of Iowa. I got my master's degree in sport and recreation and entrepreneurship. And like Kyra was saying, I think mental health and physical health play a big hand in hand together. It's almost like a balance beam of some sort. But I'm moving to Des Moines. I'm planning on coaching kids in this kicking program that I'm starting up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, I'm a very big supporter of mental health, physical health, and I think it, again, plays hand in hand with a lot of things you do in life, whether it's your mood and or whatever. So I'm excited to speak to you guys today and have some fun. And again, please ask all the questions you guys want.
All right, these guys are pretty good about answering the questions and pretty open stuff. So we'll see if we can get into some of the hard hitting stuff coming up here. So, but yeah, so we've got some really cool guests today. We're honored to have them join us and spend some time with us today. So we've got all kinds of good topics that we'll talk about. But it's nice to have both recent grads too, recent graduates, and one is just yesterday. Congratulations, Kyra. That's awesome getting that done. So one of the things that I like to talk about is our positive and negative risk taking. Okay, so we talk about risk taking in here and what that can do for us. If we're taking a positive risk, we know that we're doing something that's going to pay off, right? It might be a big step forward, a step outside our comfort zone, but it pays off in the long run. So, Keith, if you want to start with us on that one, moving from North Carolina to Iowa, taking a risk, stepping a leap of faith there. What was some of the positive risks that you've been taking to get you to the point where you're at today?
Yeah, it was definitely a huge jump in what I've been used to and what I've been comfortable with. But again, that's something that now I look back on. I'm so excited that I did. I did make that decision. Again, coming to Iowa, I've met all my great friends in college. I experienced a new part of the United States, new cultures that are here, and just meeting great people. And again, looking back 5 years ago, I never would have thought that I would have experienced these things. But that's one of the positive risks that comes with, taking a risk, or positive outcomes that comes with taking a risk. And again, there are some negatives, but I'm a big believer of once you get comfortable in those uncomfortable situations, you're going to be in a good spot, and you'll really like where you're at.
Yeah, and that's something we talk about too with thrive in those uncomfortable situations. We can make some really cool things happen. That instead of just surviving, we want to make sure we're thriving in those situations. So I think both of you guys do a great job of that. And so we'll get into that a little bit more. So Kyra, I know you kind of took another risk, another great example of going outside of our normal area here and going down to St. Louis. You want to talk about that risk, what that was like for you, how you decided on that, and what got you to that point?
Yeah, so honestly, it was really scary leaving home, but it was the best decision I've ever made. And, like playing at the next level is also a big risk. A lot of my friends just like decided not to play and they went to a regular college in Iowa. And I did have a lot of FOMO from that and I did miss them. But, I just like made so many great friendships and connections and a lot of really important life lessons in this move to St. Louis.
And tell us again, you played basketball at what school? Did you want to talk about that?
The University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Okay, so St. Louis there. And so that, again, we grew up in the small town. I give them some stories about Grinnell and what the small town Iowa life is like and what it's like riding our horse and buggy to school and trying to battle walking through the streets and stuff. But again, moving outside of that area is a big thing for a lot of people, and it's cool to see what some of you guys have done with that. And I know we don't have necessarily our seniors with us right now, but one thing I like to talk about here as well is the transition. So we go from our high school days to the college life, and then college life to post that to adult life and stuff. And do you want to talk a little bit about that transition, what it's like? Going from the high school level to a collegiate level on both the athletic side of things as well as the student sides. Any of the struggles or something that you weren't thinking of when you first started there. Keith, if you can start with us on that one here.
Yeah. Again, I think that there's so many learning experiences that you can get from just going to college, and everything that you do and experience should be a learning experience, and that's how you grow as a person, in my opinion. And I think that in college there are pillars that you go through, and basically your priorities. And once you have your priorities set, if you abide by those rules, you're going to be happy, and I think you'll be very successful. And again, like mine is family, faith, athletics. And if I have, and again, schools along with football part of that. And if you have one of those that's thriving and one of them that's dropping, you'll see them all start to decrease. So you just have to have your priorities straight, and again, give love to every single one of those priorities, because you will thrive in that situation if you do that.
I like how you said that the priorities, setting those early. We've talked about that too, how important it is to have a general rules, and we talked about our IT statement that we have in here, kind of like what you do for your motto there. With the priorities, was that something that you had set going into school? Was that something that they helped you or encouraged you to go through? How did you go about setting those priorities for yourself?
Yeah, those were something that I kind of just wrote down going into college. I only get to go home once a year, so I like to talk to my parents a lot, and we kind of went through some of those priorities before I went off to college. But I'll go back to the experiences. Everything you experience in your life will be a learning experience, and those may change your priorities for you. They may not. It's all about just kind of your awareness of where you're at, what you want, what are your goals in life, and again, just attacking those full force.
Awesome. So as we're talking about this stuff here, and you guys can think about this too, when we think back to our IT statements, when we made those at the beginning of the year, right? So we think about our IT statements, what drives you, what gets you up in the morning, what makes you tick, right? What are the things that drive you to do what you do? And I think it's good to see people in successful situations that are using some of those same strategies. So I think it's awesome to get that perspective as well. And Kyra, if you want to talk a little bit about that as well, just that transition going from our area to St. Louis, and what it was like going from the high school to the collegiate level, and all aspects of that.
Yeah, it definitely was a way to. It is really important, like Keith said, to have your priorities, like know what you want to like achieve throughout your 4 years at this university. Like set goals that are long term and short term. So then you start hitting those along the way. And that was something I did, and I think that really helped me be successful to where I'm at now.
And again, having those routines, the priorities that she talks about there too, I think that's that's a good thing. And when even going from that transition time, you can really amplify some of your strengths and weaknesses, work on weaknesses when you have that time of transition. So I think it's good for all of us to be thinking about that. Even our freshmen and sophomores in the rooms, I think it's good to be understanding about that too, and what we're going to be going forward with that. So awesome. One topic that I know I'm very excited to talk about, and I think that you guys will be awesome candidates for this. So in here, we talk a lot about the pressures of social media. Okay, social media is such a huge topic that we cover in this class, and I think that both of you guys are awesome examples of that. And so both of you have a solid following, right? I would say the following has been increased as well as going through the college years. Kyra, I'll start with you on this one. Kyra, one thing that I think it's been really fun to follow her journey with this is going and creating. I don't know if you want to call it a brand or what it might be, but she's done a really good job of using her platform to talk about the issues that are close to her heart. Right? So some of the things that she's really been working on, whether it's nutrition side of things, the dietitian, or body positivity. Kyra, do you want to talk about kind of how you got into that role? I know TikTok has been a big thing for you, Instagram, certain different things like that. We talk about the pressures of social media as well as body positivity. What kinds of things I know we could go on hours on this topic for you, but you want to give us an overview of kind of how you got into that scenario and how you started working with that.
Yeah. So in high school, I actually developed an eating disorder, which continued on through college. And even before then, I struggled greatly with my mental health. Anxiety was a huge one for me. And I saw a therapist throughout my time, and I did recover from my eating disorder, and I learned how to live with my anxiety. So that's kind of where I wanted to start an Instagram platform where people could feel safe, and like something like talking about mental health, especially in sports, wouldn't be taboo, because I know a lot of times as an athlete, a lot of people were surprised when I said that I struggled with my mental health, that I had an eating disorder, because they're like, but you're an athlete. I'm like, so like I can still have those things and struggle with them and still be a great athlete at the same time.
I think that's such one of the coolest things that I think too is with your platform, it's something. I think brutal honesty is something that is really important with that. And I think you used the word taboo in there, talking about how the stereotyping or the thought that because you put out this picture, this front that hey, I'm an athlete, I'm working really hard, I am working out all the time. It's like they think that you have to be on this pedestal, right? They think that you can't be struggling with something that somebody else is. And I use the phrase, sometimes the people that look like they have it the most together are the ones that truly are struggling with the most, because they have a hard time expressing how that feels. And I think it's a huge thing that is awesome that you're addressing on your social media stuff as well with that. And I want to come back to that as well here in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about body image and stuff and the eating as well there. I'll jump over to Keith here, and then I'll open it up. If you guys have a question yourself or a couple questions for them, I'll give you a little bit of time to be thinking about what kind of questions you want to ask here. But Keith, you're a unique scenario here. I know you have quite an interesting following, and especially from some of the Nebraska fans. What are some of the things that you have been able to, the ups and downs of the social media stuff? What are some things that you've learned along the way, and how have you used that platform? I think you've got some really cool stuff that you've been working on, connecting with some people and reaching out to them as well.
Yeah, I think social media, one, is a really, really cool thing, but it can also do a lot of damage. And I've learned both ways how it can be extremely positive and also extremely negative. Whether it's my Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, I always receive positive messages and negative messages. And you don't have to have a huge following for that to happen. And I think it is, again, a very crazy thing that we're all going through right now, because our generation is kind of the forefront leaders in the social media world, especially now that TikTok is huge. But yeah, so I guess I'll give an example. Nebraska, Nebraska fans don't really like me, and they send some very, very bad things, I guess I'll say. But again, like if you're very confident in who you are as a person, you should just be okay with whatever you post. Obviously, if it's good. And that's another thing. Anything you post on social media is like a tattoo. It's going to stay there forever. So be very smart with what y'all post. And everything that you do should be, in my opinion, everything that I do is, again, pointed toward my pillars. And again, I love social media because as a football player, we have our helmets on and everything, and we're not able to show our personality as much. So that's one of my things that I just really love about social media is I'm able to show my personality, but also do it in a respectful way, and hopefully engage everyone as much as possible. So again, social media is a great thing if it's used the right way. So be smart with what y'all post and who you interact with, because it could, again, come back to get you.
I love the idea that you said the phrase social media, what you post is like a tattoo. I think that I haven't heard it said that way, but I think that is so true when you look at people think, well, if I post something and I can take it down later on, I can delete it later on and stuff. And I think that especially we're learning about that, especially in our generation where we're starting to grow up with that, and we're the first people to ever deal with this, right? We don't have a set of guidelines or rules. There's not, you can't go to your parents and ask, oh, is this something smart to put? Well, no, because we're better at that than them, all right? And they're still going into the Facebook stuff. So it's something that I think is crucial to understand. I think all of us are in the position, recently where you go out and you're looking for jobs, right? You're looking for whatever kind of job interview you got going. There is a 99.9% chance they're going to be looking back through your social media and what you're posting and finding anything about you. I think that's something that think of what you post as a tattoo. It's going to leave a permanent mark wherever you put it. So I think that's really good stuff. And I know that, again, having that positive and negative feedback, both sides, I think you probably learned that as well. So yeah, we'll come back to that. Questions that you guys have so far about the stuff we've talked about there and some of the comments here. Yeah, Michael.
About football.
It can be about football. Yeah, it can be. Yep, it can be about anything.
Okay. Can I just say that loud?
Yep.
Which game-winning kick did you enjoy more, the Michigan one or the Nebraska one?
I would have to go Nebraska just because it was at Nebraska, and it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to just hear the crowd just go very silent. Again, the Michigan kick, I was a true freshman, so that happened really quick. I remember falling on the ground and passing out, so I suggest if that ever happens, you guys don't do it. I fell down and no one was on the field, and then I woke up and all of Iowa was on the field. So they were both really cool, really fun experiences that I'll never forget, but I may have to go with Nebraska on that one.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we'll pop a video later on and stuff and see just why some of the Nebraska fans don't particularly like Keith. So we'll explain that here in a little bit too. So awesome. Yes, other questions that you guys have so far about that? Yes, Ben.
Just go for either one of them. But what do you think the hardest part about being a student athlete is?
Ooh, good question. So student athlete, Kyra, you can start with this one. What part of being a student athlete is the, I would say, most difficult, the biggest struggle, and then what's most beneficial about it? I know there's good and bad to both sides of that.
I think the time concept of being a student athlete is the hardest part because you're practicing at least 3 hours a day, if not 4, almost 5. And between that time, you have to go to classes, and then afterwards you have to do homework. You have to try and find time to have like somewhat of a social life within that.
That's something that I've heard from some of my other friends that talk about this as well, trying to balance both, the job that you have of your sport, the academic side of things like that. And then if there's any time for a social life left, that's the small amount of portion there. So I think that's something that you look at, how much time and effort is spent in there. And we'll circle back to that as well with the time management portion of that. Keith, would you agree with some of that stuff? What else can you add to that side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% say time management. I guess the easiest way to show you guys that is our schedule. So I'll just go through our daily schedule during the season. For football, we wake up at 5:30. In the morning, we lift at 6, meetings at 7, practice at 8:30, get off the field at 11, go straight to class until 4:30, and then come right back for meetings. And then our free time during the season is we have an off day Thursday, but our free time is any time after 6:30, and that's usually spent on homework. So it is a very demanding lifestyle, but again, there are huge benefits with that, whether it be like for me, I think we may hit on this later. For me, I think athletics has done a lot more for me mentally rather than physically, just going through challenges individually and as a team setting. So it's been great for me. But I would, yes, go time management 100% on that.
And Keith, you talked about the intense schedule there. I remember, freshman year when we talked at the dorm rooms and stuff, and see what what would you call it, the tracking system, right? So you wear your sleep monitors and you wear your the best way to describe it. I mean, we worked with this once I started learning about it. We worked with it for our kinesiology side of things and exercise science. So basically, it looks like a sports bra for guys. Would you agree? Sports bra for guys. I mean, you're wearing it right here. And tell them a little bit about what that all tracks and how in depth that can get into it's everything as well as your sleep tracking.
Yeah, so that was called the iThlete. It basically measured heart rate variability. But what we shortly moved to after was a sleep tracking band that we wore on our wrist right here. Can't remember the brand of it, but it would basically tell you when you went to bed, how many times you woke up during the middle of the night, how much REM sleep you got, when you woke up, and your movement throughout the night. So all of that goes into your athletic performance, your mental health, and the academic side of things. Our coach has always told us the best performance enhancer is sleep, and that goes through anything in life. It doesn't have to be just athletics. So make sure you guys get at least 7 hours of sleep, and that's one thing that I've learned pretty well in college too. I need my 7 hours.
So he said it tells you that stuff, and it also tells your coaches that stuff as well. So I think that was a tough thing as well when you see it. It's not only going to your tracking yourself, it's also going to tell that to your coaches. So again, you talk about the rigorous schedule. It turns into more of a 24-hour job. It's not something where you're ever getting time off from that kind of stuff. And you mentioned REM sleep. REM sleep, REM. You guys remember what that stands for? We covered that. Rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement. Yes, that's when his eyes would be going wild inside. It's the deepest sleep of the night when you can get into that and having that good performance enhancer. So awesome. I will say, if you guys have other questions, we'll jump back into that. But something that you guys both have mentioned, and the time, the intensity of the athletics and college athletics. I know both of you are recently graduated, right? Very recently. What are some ways that, the importance of physical activity, obviously in your collegiate careers has been a very, it's been intense activity, right? Every practice you go to, it's always intensity there. How do you plan on continuing to stay active post-collegiate, like athletics, and what do you plan to do to continue to stay in that athletic shape? Are there things that you're excited to try? Are there things that you've already been doing in the off season? I know Keith, you're still training and stuff. Kyra, do you want to talk a little bit about what have you done post basketball season that has continued to stay active, and how do you hope to continue that?
Yeah, I really like like Tabata timer ones. So I've been doing a lot of those. I like weightlifting. I kind of like running, not really, but I'm trying to get better at doing that. Now that there's a park right next door to me, so I'm trying to take advantage of that. I also am trying to try some new things to just kind of like spice it up a bit, like not make it so boring. So I just started boxing last week, and that was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Is that a class that you're taking? Is that something that you're doing online, something, or?
Yeah, that's a class in person that I've been going to.
Okay, I didn't know if you're just showing up to an alleyway and just like throwing hands at somebody in the back there. That's just like a legit class. Okay, well we teach them some of those self-defense stuff here too. So we'll be talking about that. Awesome. I think she hit the nail on the head there with, we talk about variability, right? You have multiple different things that you can do, not just, if you don't want to just run all the time, right? You don't want to just lift all the time. You don't want to just do yoga. See how can we combine all this stuff together? How can we relate to these different areas and be well-rounded in that sense? So Keith, you could talk a little bit about, are you still doing your training? What are you training for? What has physical activity played a role for you? Are there other ways that you hope to stay active with that stuff?
Yeah. So I'm still trying to train for the NFL. My training regimen has changed a little bit, just because I'm able to focus more on myself rather than just do the team activities, which has also been great. So I may get some laughs here, but I started yoga, and I think it's been great. So I do some yoga and Pilates classes in a heated room. And what that's done for me, one, I get comfortable being in an uncomfortable situation because I look like a goofball in there. I'm typically the only guy in there, but it's a lot of fun just because the teacher's great. And I think yoga is great because it strengthens your core and increases your flexibility. And I think that's one thing that I wish I knew going into college, being an athlete, was how much of a difference being flexible / being mobile really makes a difference in your performance. Again, just being mobile, being flexible allows you to gain more strength and primarily reduce the percentage for injury. So again, doing those different things have been great. Again, new experiences are so much fun, and I've been able to learn from them as well.
So I love that so much. They all look at me when we were talking about that. I don't think you got any laughs because I'm a big promoter of the yoga world. So I actually, that's one of the classes that I teach here at Dowling, which is fun. I never would have guessed that a high school class would be able to offer that yoga stuff. I think that's really cool that way. But I've talked about how I work at a place called Power Life here in town. So it's a hot yoga studio. And a lot of the stuff that I do, so we talk about the different levels, right? So we'll see. Which one do you think you guys are going to guess? Which one do you think Keith is in? So we have the different categories. You have the newbies, right, that come in just starting out. Then you have the intermediate that come once in a while. They're getting pretty good. You have the experts here that are there every day doing the good stuff. And then the pinnacle. The pinnacle, the peak over here is the yoga moms group. Okay, the yoga moms, they're the ones that day in, day out, they're there. They're calling each other up if they're not there, holding each other accountable. And I've slowly worked my way, and I'm starting to infiltrate the yoga moms group, which is a big deal for me. I've got some good connections there, and starting to work my way into it. But I totally agree with what Keith is saying. We're talking about the same stuff there, where you don't realize the importance of being mobile and having that ability to do that. And I think that was something I went to yoga for the first time as a joke. I'm like, oh, this will be funny. And then I started realizing, like, wow, the physical and mental benefits of it is huge. And I think that goes not just for yoga, but anything you're trying something new. Right? I'm one of the worst swimmers that there is. And I still dive into the pool and work on that kind of stuff. So work on what you suck at, I think is a motto that Coach Jack has kind of instilled in a lot of us here too. So awesome. It's good stuff. I like the physical activity side of things there and doing that. So if we talk about the physical activity side of things, we've talked about the physical, we've talked about the body stuff. Let's talk about the mental and emotional side of things. I think that's a big topic that all three of us really want to talk about. And Kyra, we'll go back to you here to start with the mental health side of things. I think going along with not only the nutrition side of things, the fueling yourself, but also being able to balance all of that with the pressures of sport and athletic and social life and stuff. You want to talk? I know it's a broad topic for you, but you want to start off talking a little bit about that mental side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that taking care of your mental health should honestly come before physical, because your mental health plays into so many things. If you're not feeling your best on your inside, you're not making a positive or healthy environment on your inside, and it's just going to go into other areas of your life. So one way I deal with that is go see a therapist. I'm super open about that, and I love my therapist. So I definitely recommend it to anyone who may not even think that they need one, but like just going to someone and talking and get like an expert opinion, because a lot of times, like before I saw one, I would try to talk to my friends about it, but that is some heavy stuff that you're laying on them and they don't know that. So I definitely recommend going to in that field.
And I think that's awesome to talk about, going to a professional in that field. We've talked about how it's important to be able to be open with your friends about that kind of stuff. But in the same sense, like she said, that having the professional to talk to, right, is going to be key, because you're laying some stuff on them that, one, they may be dealing with themselves, right? And two, they may not have the answers for you, right? And so if they don't know how to communicate with you on that stuff, if they don't respond the way that you think that they should, that might hurt you in the sense of, well, if they don't understand me, I'm just, I'm different than all of them, and that's gonna take a toll on you there. So I think talking to the professional is such a huge thing there. Kyra, do you want to share just what your mom does as well? Then do you think that has helped at all with going and talking to somebody? I think our parents both have similar jobs in that sense.
Yeah, so I don't know like the official title, but my mom goes to like different high schools in the area that are connected with the community college, and like she'll have like different meetings with them and kind of figure out like what the student their goals are for the future and what career paths they want to go down. So then my mom kind of looks around the community, the area, to find those jobs or paths that could help benefit students.
So I think the counseling side of things there too. I think both of our parents are counselors. My dad is a counselor, and Kyra's mom. So we both come from that background where we're used to having the counselors in the household, but it's also, they're good people to talk to, but it's also important to find a professional in that field, right? So having somebody you can actually communicate with there as well. Keith, I know this is a passion area of yours too. Do you want to talk about, what has, the college side of things helped you with that? What are some things that you've learned to deal with that? Any struggles that have happened with that? What can you share about the mental health side of things?
Yeah, I think I have two really big takeaways that I learned from college. The first one is everyone goes through mental health, whether it's positive or negative. No one is immune to having negative thoughts. We all have negative thoughts every day. It's just kind of working towards overflowing those negative thoughts with positive thoughts. For me, what I like to do is whenever I have a negative thought, the first thing that you can do to overcome that is be aware of it. Once you're aware of that negative thought, then you can easily get out of it. If you're not aware of it, then you're just kind of putting yourself down a bad hole. And the second thing that athletics has taught me is mental strength. And you hear a lot of your coaches say like, oh, you have to be mentally tough, all that. And there was never a good definition of mentally tough. And what I kind of learned throughout the years, my definition of mentally tough is being able to think about what you want in certain situations, whether that's a positive situation or a negative situation. Being able to just put whatever positive thought you have in your mind, I think is the definition of mental strength, and it's something that I'll keep for the rest of my life.
That's awesome that you use that specific example. I think unique in both those scenarios. I think Keith is in a unique position, football position in itself. So those of you who don't know, he's kicking, right? So kicking, what do kickers do? They have one play that they come out and it's make or break, right? In a way, it's a good thing for fans not to know your name, because if they know your name, you're usually messing up, right? It's a typical thing where it's a make or break scenario. And I think that you think that position in itself has made you really dive into the mental side of things as well, that mental strength. Do you think that position has helped you gain some of that mental side of things?
Definitely. One thing that I learned from freshman year to senior year was attacking the opportunity. And we use a lot of trigger words in Iowa football. Opportunity is one. Just making the most of your opportunities, because you never know when they'll come. Whether you fail or succeed, you will learn from that opportunity. But if you take it head on, then you'll definitely come out happier than what you would if you didn't. So just again, going back to the mental toughness side, the definition that I just gave you guys, and making the most of your opportunity. That's really what you need to do, especially as a kicker. I may only get one play during a game, and you never know when that play is going to happen or what the situation may be. So again, just going back to the opportunity side of things, I think it's a fantastic word. I like to write down certain opportunities that come across during my daily events and reflect on those. I think we may talk about this, but mental health, like I journal every single night, and I think it's great for you just to think about the positives and the negatives that went about your day, being able to reflect on what you went through on a daily basis. And I kind of babbled on there for a little bit, but yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna make a note on here about the journal because I do want to go back to that. So you guys, it's your job. Remind me, we're going back to journaling later on. Okay. All right. Kyra, the other one that I want to talk about with that too. You think about again, Keith's position is unique where you may only have that one play a game. Kyra, yours might come down to a free throw, right? All the pressure is on you. It's a make or break thing. What are some things that you've learned in those the make or break scenarios, the make or break situations, the stressful scenarios? What are some mental strategies that you've done? And this can include not just a free throw, but a test coming up or a big speech or different things. How do you rise to the occasion? What are some things that you have found that helps you in that scenario?
Some things I've found really helpful are like envisioning myself succeeding in that moment, like either acing that test or making that game-winning free throw. Just like having those thoughts in your head are really good because if you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna miss this free throw, you're gonna miss that free throw. And really how you talk to yourself on the inside, it affects your performance. I struggled a lot like with basketball during my early years because I would talk to myself so negatively. Like I would beat myself up after a missed shot or even just like letting a person beat me on defense. And there's so many plays throughout a game of basketball that I could have just let that go. But instead I let it just like sink in and eat me up. And it basically like it would cause me to make more mistakes because I was thinking about it so much.
And when you constantly are thinking about that side of things, it can really take a toll on you. I want to touch one more thing on that, and then I'll open it up if you guys have some more questions. So you're thinking about that. Keith, I'll ask you the same type of question. So you're going up for a kick. All right, it's a make or break one, game winning, game losing. What is your process, your mental side of things? What do you do going up to that kick? You visualize, you use visualization, you use positive self-talk. What are you telling yourself as you're going up? You have a certain routine that you go through every time.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on basically everything that goes on during that event. Routine is, I think, one of the biggest words that I have been experienced to in college. So just on an athletic side, I think Kyra just said a great thing. One thing that, again, going back to the Michigan kick, I forgot who asked the question, but the Michigan kick and the Nebraska kick, they were about 4 years apart. In the Michigan kick, I ran on the field and said, I hope I don't miss this kick. And the Nebraska field, I ran out of the field and said, I'm going to make this kick. And you can just tell in my body language, just the thought process was so much different. And going about that. And what I like to do for my routine, it's very specific. I've got it written down on a piece of paper, and it's very detailed. So I've got home field, like game-winning kick. I have a routine for that, and I go through that routine, and I pick out different things that I notice in Kinnick that could distract me. So, for example, we have a lady that sits behind us with a giant sun hat, and she's always screaming in our ear. And I found that to be a distraction. So I wrote that down in my routine. So when that did come across, it didn't throw me off. Or there's a beach ball always flying in Kinnick, or Coach Ferentz has an ad about chips and salsa on the big board that always throws me off sometimes. So writing those things down just really helps me be aware of the situation, so it's not foreign territory for me.
I think it's great to think about that too, the sides of distractions, right? And this is something that, again, I try to remind myself that it's this stuff is athletic based, right? It comes from athletics, but it can apply to so many different aspects of your life. I think that's something that's important to look at that, right? So it's not you can take the specific kicks, you can take the specific free throws, but you can also take it into, okay, I have a big speech coming up. I need to make sure that I crush this, or an interview coming up for different jobs, or how big or small it is. Some different things that, if you're having a conversation with somebody, right? How can you rise to the occasion? How can you do that? One of my favorite mental side of things that, the challenges or the distractions that I remember at special teams camps. One of them was at Iowa. They brought, there's 2 kickers left in the competition, and they wanted to see how they handled pressure situations. So they lined up. They were both, I don't know if it was a 40 or 35, 40 yard or whatever it might be. They lined the 2 different kickers up, and they brought their moms out onto the field. And so their mom had to stand there and watch their kid about 5 yards in front of them where the long snapper would be. And they had to stand there and look at their son right as they were about to kick it. Right? So you standing there, talk about pressure kicks. If you miss this kick, you're either going to drill your mom in the face or you're going to, embarrass the family right there. So you talk about 2 completely different sides of that, right? But again, rising to the occasion, how can we handle this pressure situation? How can we do this and work through that? So I like talking about that, and I could go on and on about these mental side of things. What are some questions that we have here about any of the routines, the different things that way? What kinds of things are you guys wanting to know about that? Things specific, and if you're online, so you can answer this. What kinds of things do you guys have you're wondering about? And we've had some good questions side of that. Yes, Carter.
So this is for Keith. Would the opposing coach calls a timeout right before you kick a field goal? Does that really affect you? Or
That type of mental side of things, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, especially for kickers. The first thing that I'll say about that is you can really only control the controllables, and that's a quote that we use a lot in football. So the only thing that I control is what I do. So I can't control what the other coach is going to do, what the snapper is going to do, what the holder is going to do. If they miss a block and a guy's about to block my field goal, I can't control that. The only thing I can do is control what I'm going to do. Personally, I love when they call a timeout, when they ice me, because I'm able to experience the game atmosphere a little bit more. Like we talked about earlier, I may only get 1 kick during a game. So for Nebraska, for example, I got, I think, 3 kicks in the first half, and then that game-winning kick, that was my next kick in the game. So the whole second half, I didn't get a field goal. So that was my first field goal in, let's say, 2 hours of real time. So I was not warm. I was not as loose as what I'd like to be, or as comfortable in the situation. So having those 2 timeouts that the Nebraska coach called, I was able to get a practice kick and experience the atmosphere just a little bit more, which made me feel a little bit more comfortable. And again, that just kind of goes back to me maturing as an athlete, as a person. Maybe as a freshman, I wouldn't feel as comfortable. So again, I like it, but it depends on the person.
And I think I'm guessing, Kyra, you could probably relate to that same thing where you look at the games on the line, right? So how has your mental side of things progressed over the years? I think a lot of us, if you look back to our high school years or freshman year, maybe that might be different, right? They call those timeouts. They have that time to think. A freshman is going to use that time to think about, oh my gosh, all these things that could go wrong. And I think both of you mentioned, how can I, instead of changing my mindset, how can I flip the switch and go into it with the idea that, look at all the good things that are going to happen here. I'm going to get to, Keith was enjoying that senior year, right? He was enjoying that last time, enjoying the stadium around him and stuff. And I think that if we can flip that switch, we have the power to do that. I talk about that. Today's a perfect example of that, right? You have the people that get up and, what do you say on Friday? Thank God it's Friday. Right? Everybody's excited. And on Monday, a lot of times people are constantly thinking, oh man, I just have to get through this. I just have to suffer through the week to get to that Friday. If we're living our whole lives that way, we're missing a huge percentage of the days and not getting that opportunity to enjoy that. So great question there. Any other ones that you guys have off the top of your heads here? Otherwise, we'll keep rolling with this. I got a couple others on here. Yeah, at the end, I'll open it up so you guys think about more questions that you guys want to talk about here. So let's jump back into the journaling. I want to throw that in there. And Keith, I know you do now, and Kyra, you can jump in after Keith here. What type of journaling do you do? What is it? Is it prompts that you go with, or is it just a blank page that you just go with?
Yeah, sometimes I go through prompts, sometimes I don't. It's again kind of just a time for me to reflect back on my day. Sometimes I literally just write about my day. Like went on a boat with my friends, went and played spike ball, and then sat on the couch. And then I'd write down what I liked, what I didn't like. But the main part of journaling for me is I do gratitudes at the end. So I do 3 things that I'm thankful for, and then I write my favorite song from my church that I listen to every day. It's kind of my motto. It says "See a victory," and that's one thing that kind of resonates with me. Just always staying positive and always, again, attacking the opportunity. So I do gratitudes, and I just write about my day. Sometimes there's prompts, sometimes there's not. It doesn't have to be very strict, or there's no right answer is what I'm saying. It's just kind of experiencing yourself and having fun with it.
I think that's huge. We sometimes call it gratitude journal, right? Gratitude journaling. There's one that I was introduced to, I think back in my sophomore year of college, that completely changed my outlook on this stuff. And it's called the 5-minute journal. So again, when you talk about this stuff, it's not like he's sitting there journaling for an hour and a half each night. Right? That's not realistic for a lot of people. Okay. This can be something that can just be a short 5-minute thing, right? It can even be on your phone, right? You can type it. There's benefits to writing it out as well with pencil. But I use something called the 5-minute journal, and it's exactly what you talk about there, where you have the prompts. You have the 3 things that I'm looking forward to today. So that the 2 questions in the morning, 3 things that I'm looking forward to today. How could I make today great?
I think, can I interrupt you again real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. I think one thing I used to do journaling on my phone, and that was not good for me just because I ended up like I'll go on TikTok for 3 hours and waste 3 hours of my day. So one thing that I liked was writing it on with my hand on a journal. And to make sure I did that every night is once I woke up, I made my bed and I put my journal on my bed. So that would ensure every time I came in, I would see my journal and be like, oh, I have to write my journal today. And you have a clean bed. So even if you have a terrible day, you're able to go into a clean bed.
That is a perfect thing right there. And we talk about the active action, right? You guys remember talking about that in class. So what is an active action? We talk about the first thing in the morning, right? You can wake up and you can be as tired and grumpy as you want, but as soon as you have that, boom, active action. So mine in the morning is making my bed, right? I can roll out of bed. I can punch the pillow. It's too early in the morning, right? You get up and then you make your bed and you decide that is when I'm ready to go. It could be brushing your teeth in the morning. It could be taking your first drink of water. It could be punching the wall and flexing in the mirror, right? Something that gets you going in the morning, gets you fired up, right? So it's something that gets your brain moving, gets it going. And I think that's a great routine that way that you can set that up. So yeah, I mean, what he's saying is perfect with the prompts there, having, what are some things that I can make today great? How can I make today great? And then at the end of the day, 3 things that were great today, 3 things that you're grateful for, 2 things that I could have made better or I could have improved upon, and then what am I looking for tomorrow? Kyra, is that something that you've experienced at all with journaling? Have you worked with that at all? Is that something? How do you reflect on your day?
Yeah. So actually, for my eating disorder recovery, I have different prompts and journals that I would write through with just kind of a lot of my behaviors and just kind of writing out and does this eating disorder align with the values that I want in life? At the end of the day, no. And so I went through a lot of different prompted journaling, which I really liked. And then there's actually one book, I think it's I'm Fine, and then it has a line through it. And I believe it was actually a professor at Iowa was one of the authors to it, but it's a mental health self-help book where like you journal and it has like all the different like feelings and emotions and like it's just like the human emotion is like so complex and there's more than just like I'm good, I feel bad. And I just like would flip through the book and like this feeling is just like what I'm feeling right now and I would just mind dump like why and it's very therapeutic and I feel like I would agree with you that like writing it out on paper, you're so much more like in tune and aware with your feelings by doing it that way.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's like I had said there with the science behind putting a pencil to paper, right, a pen to paper, and actually the ability to write it out, right? You can have these thoughts in your head, but as soon as you put it down to paper, it makes it real, right? There's some truth to that, and I think that's a huge portion. Even that kinesthetic awareness, just being able to draw that out, write it out, you're going to have some huge benefits with that. The book title that Kyra mentioned there, I like that. We talked about one of our activities last week or the week before. We talked about the scariest text messages that you can receive from a loved one or a relationship. And the number one on our list was if we ask, "Are you okay?" and they say, "I'm fine." Right? That's a loaded response right there because. And like you mentioned, okay, sometimes it's something that you did, sometimes it's something that they're frustrated with, but you never know with that, right? "I'm fine" is a loaded text message. And then it's usually the next thing is, "I just think it's funny when ... or a whole long book that's coming, right? So it's a scary thought, but in reality, it really does have a loaded meaning to it and have some of those going with it. So awesome. Got a last couple of questions here, and I want to open it up to our group before we run out of time here. But let's go to goal setting. Okay, so we talk about SMART goals here, where we have specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. There's lots of different ways you can look at it. If somebody is, you might have your own type of goal setting stuff. Some goals that you guys have. Either what has goal setting played a role in your life? Is it something? Kyra, we'll start with you on this one. Goal setting, either with your nutrition side of things, with your collegiate side of things, with just being social in relationships that way. What are some things that you found that works for you in your goal setting?
Yeah, I really want my goals. Or just like repeating it to myself as I know, and really kind of like keep those values and kind of keep me on track. Setting, like I said earlier, like setting smaller ones that are like in between the bigger ones are really important, and that way it kind of motivates you to like continue on that path. And I'm someone who loves lists and like just like checking everything off, so I find that really helpful too, just like having little goals throughout the day, like to-do list, and just completing that.
And I think that's awesome. You talk about what do we hear? We had the unit in here when we talk about goal setting. We have both short-term, right? Short-term goals, intermediate goals, and long-term goals. How can we get to this long-term? It's more of a pathway set up, right? A goal is just a dream until you put it to paper, right? You have these a process to get there, and trusting the process and getting there in the way that you can. So Keith, how about you? I know goal setting has been a big thing for you as well. What way have you used that? Do you put it in your journals? Is it another way that you found? How does goal setting affect your life?
Yeah, I definitely write them down. I'm not a big stickler on long-term goals. If I am, the reason for that, I do have long-term goals, but I like to really focus on my daily goals or weekly goals. One, because like Kyra said, it's almost like a checklist, and checking off those, like physically checking off something on your checklist, it's very good for you scientifically. It increases your dopamine levels and just keeps you motivated on your long-term goals or weekly goals or whatever it may be. And I think one thing, again, that I've learned is self-talk and how you speak to yourself. And it's not just, like I'm great or whatever. It's the wording, the specific wording that you use. One thing that I learned is, let's say I'm having a bad day. Instead of saying "I am stupid," which would be what's the word I'm looking for? A permanent feeling. I like to say, like, I feel this way because it's very temporary, because your feelings are temporary. But whatever you're doing into that certain situation is not. So just the type of wording that you use is huge for me. And again, I just live by the lifestyle. Just get 1% better every single day. That 1% will eventually stack up, and then you're just gonna reach your goals and have a good time with it.
I love the power of one word is something I'm a big believer in. So I think some of my athletes get frustrated with me when I correct them whenever they say, well, I have to do 2 more sets left, or do we have to go run today?
I get to.
I get to. Right? The ability you change the mindset, you flip the switch, you flip the script there when you change that one word. Right? I get to. I have the opportunity to get that 1% better today. I have the ability to get up and go to an awesome school and get that education that some people don't. So goal setting there, that's awesome. I think that's wonderful. Be thinking about, I'm going to open it up for questions here in just a moment. Be thinking, we've got some really cool opportunities here. You may never get the chance to ask these guys this kind of stuff again. So we'll take 2 or 3 more questions here in just a moment. One of the last questions that I've got, I like to wrap things up with these questions here. When you think of success, when you think of the word success, do you think of somebody in particular? Who do you think of when you think of the word success? Or potentially, what do you think of when you hear the word success? Keith, you're up already. Who is somebody that you think of when you hear the word success?
Yeah, I think success is it's a very broad word, and people describe success in a very different way. I like to describe success as having fun with life and creating meaningful relationships. That's just who I am. I'm very outgoing. I love talking to people. And who instantly comes to my mind is my grandpa. He lived in lived in Florida, lived in Texas for his whole life. And he did medical sales in a very Hispanic area. So he learned Spanish just to be able to speak to those people. And I think that is phenomenal. He loves meeting new people. He's the kind of guy that I'm also this way. If you're at a grocery store, I'm going to just start talking to you, and you may think I'm a crazy person, but we're going to have some fun and have a conversation. So if you ever see me, just come up and kick me in the shin and we can have a conversation.
That's a way to introduce yourself to Keith. So you'll be wearing shin guard or something. Awesome.
Yeah.
Kyra, I'll ask you the same question. Who do you think of when you hear the word successful?
I think right now, I really think about Kobe Bryant. I mean, in honor of him being put into the Hall of Fame the other day. I think it's just like what he did, like he gave back, and just kind of the person he was. Like no one is going to remember you like when you're past, like, oh, this person was so rich, or even like this person had like the best body. Like none of those things matter. It's at the end of the day, it's your character and how you treat other people.
I love that. That's a good answer there too, and why you think of that. Couple rapid fire ones. Your most influential book that you've read. I think some of the most some of the best conversations that I have start by sharing. Oh, I was reading this book, right? I think when I working with Coach Doyle at a while back, I think he was the one that really put me onto that. Where talked to me about you have the ability to have a conversation with the smartest people in history. How? You can't, they're dead, right? Some of the smartest people in history. You can read their books, right? If you can read a book, you have the ability to have a conversation with some of the most influential people in the world. So what is there one book that you think that has really been the most influential for you, or the most gifted book that you recommend to other people? Keith, we'll start with you on this one.
Yes, absolutely. I love reading, and I didn't love reading until this past year, and I'm so glad I picked up on it. My number one is called Mask of Masculinity by Lewis Howes. He's also got a great podcast, but it basically just talks about the vulnerability of dudes. People struggle with that, but once you're, just read the book. I'll leave it at that. And the second one is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, I think it is. Also has a podcast. talks a lot about meditation, and it's not like crazy meditation. It's just people think of meditation as something wacky sometimes, but again, it's something just phenomenal. Meditation doesn't have to be strange to you. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. And he talks about that in the book. So those two books have been huge for me.
Okay, so I've got those two written down. And Kyra, how about you? What's one that you have had?
I would say Think Like a Champion. I read that in middle school and I loved it. It was actually recommended by one of my coaches. And then during college, our coach had us read together this book called Read This Book Today and You'll Win Tomorrow. And it had a lot to do with just kind of the stuff we were talking about, like self-talk and getting to those like game situations and where our mind goes and just kind of, like believing. Something she always said is, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. And that has so much truth. Like when I came into college, I had no confidence. I didn't believe in myself whatsoever. So why would my teammates believe in me if I was struggling and didn't believe in myself? So just kind of like, I feel like that book really kind of like helps you put it into perspective, like your mindset and again, like the self-talk and believing in yourself.
I love it. So those are both good books. I think it's funny that two of these here have Think Like a Blank. So I think that must be a series or something like that. We can maybe get started on there. So awesome. Last couple here. What's next for the two of you? What's next? Is there steps that you've got? What's the end goal? What's the dream goal? I know you guys talk about long-term goals sometimes, and sometimes it's better to have those short-term or long-term. Is there something that you hope to achieve, both either in your careers, in your personal life? What are some things that you're hoping to do? Keith, we'll go back to you to start with. I know you're in a big transition period in your life. What's a goal of yours coming forward?
Yeah, I love to never make. One of my rules is I never like to make any monetary goals. So I never want to be like, oh, I hope I make this amount of money this year. For me, I'm very go with the flow. Whatever happens, I'm in that situation for a reason. So my goal is literally just to meet as many people as possible and just have a great time with my life. I know I'm in a very fortunate position, and I'm so happy I'm aware of that. So again, just taking the most of the opportunity that I'm in and meeting as many people as possible.
Okay, I like that. Creating those relationships, and I think it's a huge part of that. Kyra, how about you? What's next for you? I know you've got some more schooling that you get to go do, and what are some things that you're hoping to accomplish with that?
Yeah, so my end goal with more schooling is to become a registered dietitian and work for a sports team, either professional or collegiate. Yeah, that's my big goal right there.
The nutritionist and that's, I think that's awesome to see, how you're hoping to give back with that kind of thing. The questions, I'll open it up for you guys. If people have questions, raise your hand if you have any. Okay. What I'm going to do here, since we're getting close on the time, I want to get your I call them knowledge bombs. So, knowledge bombs you want to drop on the young minds of tomorrow, the future leaders of tomorrow. So what I'll do, instead of having you say them on here, I'll have you to just text me them or do something like that, and then I'm going to email those out to the students. That way they have those and they have the ability to keep those as well. I'll open it up for questions, and then I want to know how can our students, how can they stay up to date with the latest on your journeys? Is there a social media, or is there a website? What is the best way to connect with you? So we'll go to our questions first, and then you guys can finish off with that here. We got about 4, 5, 6, something like that minutes. Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Who's with Kyra? How do you become what's the schooling process to become a registered dietitian?
Registered dietitian for Kyra. What was the schooling process that you've gone through?
So I went a kind of like more unconventional route. I got my undergrad in exercise science. I actually started out in biochemistry though, so I had a lot of those science classes like organic chem, biochem, all those fun ones. So just kind of like those two combined kind of formed into a nutrition degree, because unfortunately my school didn't have that. So that's why I kind of had to shift my degree. But the usual route is to get an undergrad in a DPD program of nutrition, which is like certified by Ascend, which will then you'll be able to sit for the RD exam. But before the RD exam, you have to go a total of 120 hours of a supervised practice, and like there's different rotations where you'll go to like hospitals, you'll go to a sports dietitian, nursing homes, like there's a lot of those, and then you'll be able to sit for the RD exam, and when you pass that, you'll be able to become a dietitian. However, in 2024, they are requiring everyone to get a master's degree. So that's kind of, I mean, I have to in order to become a dietitian, but not until then. So like if you're thinking about becoming a dietitian, just know that you will have to get a master's degree by 2024. But it's a really long and hard process, but it's very rewarding and worth it.
And you can tell the people that are going through that who actually enjoys that process and who can really dive into trusting and enjoying the process rather than just trying to get to the end goal there. So that's awesome. Good question. Another one. Does anybody else have questions that you wanted to ask? Yeah, Michael.
Could be another football one.
Yes. Yeah, another football one. Go ahead.
What's his overall record in the rock, paper, scissors celebration?
Overall record in the rock, paper, scissors celebration. What do we have here?
The record I will not say because I definitely lost. So I'm not going to tell you the record, but I will say that I lost, and it was not very good.
Not very good. So we'll focus more on the successful kicks rather
Yes.
than the
Yeah.
there. Okay. What I want to do here with the short time remaining, what is the best way, Keith and Kyra, what are the best ways to keep in touch with you, or how can they follow along on your journey and all the success that you guys are having and all the cool things that you're planning on doing in the future? Kyra, do you want to start on yours? I know you've got some really cool platforms that you're working on.
Yeah, sorry, you kind of cut out there. What did you say?
The platforms that you're working on, what's the best way for the students to keep in touch with you and follow along on your journey with the dietitian? I think she must have just lost us here, but
Or you can follow me.
Go ahead, try it again.
It's
I'll tell you. She's telling you that the TikTok and Kyra's Good Eats, I think, is what she's saying there. I can show them the Instagram stuff as well and kind of tell them the page to follow along there. So Keith, you want to share a little bit? What are your best ways to keep in touch and follow along on your journey there as well?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Keith, Keith. It's not IE. I know it's wacky. Keith Dunk, DUNC3 on Instagram. And if you guys didn't get to ask a question, didn't feel comfortable, just DM me and I would love to answer any questions that you guys have. And yeah, that's basically what I have. Follow me on TikTok if you want to see some silly videos, but I don't know if I recommend that.
Yeah, either one. Again, they're tattoos. Anything you post, they're tattoos out there. So, but yeah, and if you guys have more questions, I know some of you guys probably aren't comfortable sharing or asking in person. So just let me know, and I can text them and get some answers for you as well. So that'd be a great way to do that. But Keith, Kyra, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for your awesome time together and all the amazing knowledge that you've dropped on these guys. We'll get your knowledge bombs, and I'll get them in touch with you. But let's give them a 3-on-3 here. 3-on-3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, guys. I'll be in touch with you guys tonight, and I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Good talking to you.
Yeah.
Yep. See you, Keith.